Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Diane Hayden, publisher of Natural Nutmeg magazine, and welcome to our weekly podcast where I interview our expert writers and contributors on topics ranging from natural medicine, nutrition, green living, fitness, spirituality, relationships, and much more. I am excited to have with me today Deborah Krevalin. She is a relationship expert, a business coach, and a psychotherapist. After graduating from the University of Vermont, Deborah received her master's degree in counseling psychology from American International College. She has certified training in Gottman method couples therapy and expertise in conflict resolution and imago relationship therapy. She also has training in body-centered psychotherapy from the Hartford Family Institute and experience in treating substance abuse and addiction. Clients solicit Deborah's help to manage complicated relationships and life challenges in their personal and professional lives. She teaches clients her method of communication, and they learn how to have thoughtful, productive conversations that help repair and strengthen their partnerships. Essentially, clients are able to hit the reset button, increase attunement in their relationships, and transform their lives. So thank you so much for being with us today, Deborah. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you, Diane, for asking me on. I'm thrilled to be here.
Awesome. Well, I think we're going to have some fun today because relationships is one of my favorite things to talk about. And
love it. Love it.
we've already chatted a little bit, and I totally, we're obviously on the same page about a lot of things and, have very similar mindsets. But I always like to, back up for our listeners and let people know, how you got involved in this, what your passion is and where did that all come from?
Yeah, so I'm not the typical, I didn't take the typical route, if you will. I'm an old lady.
That is not true. What are you, like 40?
Well, we're not going to get into specifics, Diane, but close in that area. So I raised my babies and into adulthood, and then I decided to get my career on track. I did some other owned some creative businesses, and I was a career advisor to, college. So I've done a lot of things while raising my babies, but the career really started when they got to be young adults. And then I took myself back to graduate school, and it went from there. I think I mentioned to you, it's the one thing, sorry, that your age works for you in my business. So it was wonderful that I sort of went back later in life, because you bring all this wisdom behind you on top of the clinical skills you learn. So.
Right. Well, I was going to say that. I mean, for me, thinking about who I would work with from a relationship coaching perspective or even business coaching is going to be somebody who has not only the credentials, but also the life experience, because there's things that you don't learn in books. Let's face it. Like, you've had the years of experience of being in a partnership and working with, your family and your children and businesses and things like that, that you can't just you don't learn those things reading a book. So I think that that's a very valuable asset that you have.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it's interesting. If I'm referring people or people are asking me about what I do, they're saying, I would rather work with you. I don't want to work with someone too young. Like, I don't want someone right out of grad school. And I know what they're saying. I mean, right out of grad school can be brilliant, future therapists, but they're right out of grad school. So they bring to the table what they've got, which I'm sure is a lot and very valuable. And so there it is. Getting some years behind you is valuable.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Cool. So we talked a little bit about some interesting topics, and I wanted to start with one of them that I think is really amazing that you teach is a concept called conscious uncoupling. Mm-hmm. And it's so funny because, as we talked about that a little bit, and I was like, oh, I think I might have done that and not even realized what I was doing when I, went through my divorce from my ex-husband, who is also my partner, who I started Natural Nutmeg with. And we had a very amicable divorce. I mean, our relationship had kind of just fallen into more of like a friendship and, that kind of thing. We were great business partners, but not meant to be relationship partners, I think. And so we basically did the whole thing ourselves. We didn't have to hire attorneys or anything like that. Didn't have to go through any kind of, mediation or whatnot. And I just came from a place of having done a lot of, spiritual development work and personal work, and, had kind of taken him along in that journey while we were still married too. So I think he he had a lot of the foundation of that too. And we were the kind of people that, we weren't getting divorced because somebody cheated, or, we had been arguing for many years. It really just had turned into a friendship. And we both realized, like, yeah, this isn't working anymore. So, but I want to hear from you, what, how do you help people do that? And I guess maybe we back up just one step to say, how does a couple know when that's the right choice versus continuing to work it out and fix the marriage or relationship?
Yeah, great question. And you're right, we sort of need to back up, because before you get to conscious uncoupling, right, a lot of steps in between before you decide, okay, we're done. Amicable, not amicable, right? You need to get to that place where you're done. And hopefully people take their time, exhaust every avenue possible. Because I always say, you want to look in the mirror and be able to say, we did everything. I did everything. We really tried. So obviously you start with couples counseling, couples therapy, and finding someone that connects with both partners is key. As you were saying earlier, Diane, like, clinical skills are great, but every day of the week, I would choose connection over clinical skills. I mean, great when you have both, right? But the connection, I think, is even more important, honestly. And it's a little bit of a dance when you're a relationship specialist, because you have to sort of hold, as I say, hold both partners and have them feel that you're empathetic towards their plight, towards where they're coming from. And that can be tricky at times, but it's probably trickier for the couple. They've got to both sort of agree, yeah, we like her, we like him. Yeah, that's good for both of us. So that's where I would say it starts, just finding that couples therapist.
Yeah. So when a couple is thinking about or realizing that they are struggling, and they're trying to decide what do we do, are there things that you see in a relationship where you would say, and maybe not necessarily to the couple right away, but to yourself, I absolutely think they can make this work, or there's no way this is working. I don't even know how they lasted this long.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sort of a hopeless romantic, and I also don't like to fail. So I rarely say the other, which is, they got no shot. That rarely crosses my mind. I mean, if there's been like serial cheating for years or a decade, then I'm a hair suspect. I like a good challenge, but even then, sometimes couples wait too long. That is the issue. And I always try to spread the word. If people are having issues, don't wait until there's a full-blown issue, right? When things are at the beginning and you're not quite jibing and connecting and loving each other well enough, reach out at that point, right? But everyone does it at their own pace. And I think it's sometimes harder to get one partner to agree to therapy than the other. One partner's maybe more willing and the other's not. So it's a timing thing, I think, a lot of the time. So both partners have to be on board.
Right. So how would you describe how you work with people? I mean, I guess what I'm asking is what's different? So how are you different from any other, psychotherapist or counselor or relationship coach? Why would someone choose you?
Yeah, well, not everybody would choose me. And you and I talked about this before.
Yep.
I'm very extroverted, obviously. I'm what I call, people call an active therapist, which means if you're looking for someone to say, take good notes and really let you guys have the floor and work it out amongst yourselves, I'm not the right person for you. I'm someone who wants to get in there with you. If the ship is sinking, I'm going down with you until we can get the life preservers and we're all going up together. So to me, we're a team. And I know that sounds corny. And I usually say that to my couples when we're first working together. I know it's going to sound corny, but we are a team. You guys can't fix you or you wouldn't be here. I need you. I can't fix you, if you will, without your help. And of course, fix is not the right word because therapists don't fix. We help, we guide. We are all detectives. I always say we're detectives together to figure out what are the core issues. What do we have to change here? And that's how I approach it. But I'm in there. I'm very active. And sometimes I interrupt and I'll say, okay, guys, at the beginning of our session, just so you know, I'm someone who's going to interrupt. And it's because I'm onto something and I have to have that teaching moment heard or we're going to lose it. So I have good manners. Don't be mad at me, but this is what I have to do. This is sort of my style. So I do try to say that up front. And I think people like my vibe because I'm real and honest and
Yeah, I think that, I've been to different, therapists, to coach, had a million different coaches and things like that, whether it was for relationship or business or personal development. And I've definitely had the person who says less, like listens more, and really lets you or the couple do all the talking. And to me, and this is just me, my opinion, in terms of, I guess, what I find more effective or who I prefer to work with, to me, it sometimes got into a lot of just like the story. And I'm more about, okay, the story is the story, whatever, it's in the past. Who even knows what the story is anymore? Why go to a therapist and spend the whole time just, going back and forth between your story and your partner's story, when shouldn't it be, okay, here's where we are today. Now, what do we need to do to move forward? And so I think even though you come with that intention, also, I think sometimes people do get caught up in telling whatever their story is. So the fact that you're like, nope, I'm, whether you call it interrupting, or I may call it like nipping it in the bud. Like, I think that's important, because otherwise it's just, it can just go down the wrong path, I think. And whether or not some people feel like, oh, you got to give them time to vent or whatever, maybe there's a place for that, but certainly not if you want to be productive and keep it moving forward.
I agree with you 100%. And what I would say is there is a place where people do need to vent. And there is a place where, when I'm wearing my individual psychotherapist hat and I'm not the couples specialist, that there is a place for me to be more reserved and for me to let my client work through what they're working through, helping them, right? Not letting them struggle. I'm not a therapist that's pregnant pauses are fine and good if they're helpful, but I'm not one to let my client feel awkward and struggle because they don't know what to do next. I think that's sort of cruel. When people are coming to ask for help, I'm not going to, make a point by, I'm not talking first. Everyone has that. You and I talked about this yesterday, Diane. We talked about that whole Goodwill Hunting scene, right?
Yep.
Robin Williams is like, nope, not saying anything till Matt Damon. He has to say the first word and the whole session goes by. That's not my MO at all. There is a place to be quiet, and especially in psychotherapy, they have to feel these feelings and dredge up a lot of childhood work, and that takes time on their end to process, and there needs to be some space for them to do that. But when I'm wearing my relationship specialist hat, it's a different beast, as you say, totally different beast, and I have to lead the session. Otherwise, we got another War of the Roses going on here. And I probably just dated myself because many people don't know that movie, War of the Roses. But Bad Divorce.
I got the reference.
You got the reference. Thank you, Diane.
Hey, we're both only 40, so
Well, of course, we're 40 for the next decade. We're still going to be 40, and I love that.
Right.
I love that. Yeah. So you're right. Yeah, you're right. There's a place where a therapist has to, as I get their hands dirty, if you will, has to run the show a little bit. Otherwise, there's usually a more dominant partner, right? There's usually a relationship dynamic. That's why they're there in the first place. Many times there's sort of an imbalance of power, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And so me letting that dominant person sort of just get in the driver's seat and take off down the highway, that is not good. That is destructive to the quieter person who doesn't feel as much as if they have a voice. So again, it's a dance, and I sort of have to be the instructor, if you will.
Yeah, no, totally. So how you mentioned, communication and how important that is. How do you help people? And to me, I think that is what it is. Like, that's why relationships stop working, is because people are just not, and not just personal relationships, or romantic relationships, but even business relationships, because people either never communicated correctly to each other, or they stopped communicating. So how do you help people, I guess, figure out their own communication style and how they, what they need from their partner, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Because I think you have to know your style, and you have to be able to convey that to your partner, because your partner's not a mind reader. Like, they communicate the way they communicate, you communicate the way you communicate, and sometimes that's what causes the problem.
Yeah, very, very, very true. What I would say is, I want to sort of jump even before to answer that question. I want to jump before that, which would be, no one teaches us how to communicate. How are we supposed to know? Plain and simple. Think about it for a minute.
True.
Every couple comes in, we're having communication issues. Really?
What a shock.
I hear that, right? And quite honestly, we're not taught. If you really think about it, high school, graduate school, we're not taught how to do it. We're just expected, yeah, go get married, good luck, make some babies while you're at it, and we're not going to give you a playbook or any sort of manual, so fly blind, good luck to you. And really, if you think about it, that's how we all get through life. So not really prepared, and it's not fair to the relationship, because we're sort of set up for failure, if you will, right? Love is not enough, we know that, but we're set up for failure because we're not given the tools how to be the best partner we can be.
Yeah, not only are we not taught, I just want to say also, we have had our parents, grandparents, whatever, or other people model incorrect ways to communicate. So it's like, A, you haven't had a class, and B, you've probably been learning all the wrong ways to communicate. Like, I know my grandmother's method of communicating was the silent treatment and not talking to people for 3 days.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, you're 1,000% right. That's where we get into the psychotherapy piece. And actually, when I am working with couples, I also incorporate psychotherapy, because it's needed for exactly the reason you just stated, which is we have one model. If we're lucky to have a model, some people, grew up foster care, place to place, family to family, or group home or something. And then of course they have no model at all, right? And the models that we can have great parents, and still they're imperfect, as are we, right? We're imperfect people making imperfect children. So you could have the best childhood on the planet, and still your parents are imperfect. So they can't give you everything you possibly need, right? Because they're not mind readers and they're not perfect. So we do have a lot of people who come to therapy, and me included, who's like, I had a great childhood. What are you talking about? There's nothing wrong with me. It's not about great childhood or not great childhood, right? It's about, like you said, there's a model, and we can have a great childhood, but our parents maybe weren't physically or verbally affectionate to each other. So we didn't sort of have that modeled for us. So we don't know how to do that. What if our partner is really mushy gushy and grew up in a family with a lot of touching and I love yous, but then this person is sort of comes from a more staid and formal, right, upbringing? Right away we've got a problem, right? Right away there's a difference in how we view what a loving relationship looks like. Right away.
It's the German meets the Italian, right?
I've never heard of that at all, Diane, but
I'm saying
really
that because it's funny that you use that example, because that's pretty much my relationship. And I grew up where my father was English and my mother was German, and there was not that, it was just not a big display. They're very, like, I don't want to say they're not emotional, because they did say, I love you, and, told me they loved me and all that kind of stuff. But there was not like this immense display of emotion one way or the other, whether they were, exhibiting love or there was a fight. There was not screaming or yelling. It was very calm, like, think the British royal family. And that's what it was like. And my boyfriend comes from an Italian family, 100% Italian. And I can't even imagine like what his childhood was like, because it's like they're screaming 24/7 over there. And I don't know wait, are they mad, or are they, is this how they're showing love?
Good point. It's their style, right?
Yep.
That's you make a really great point. It's funny, but it's also true, right? It's very, very true. We're brought up so differently. So we come to the table, with our own stuff. And it's about sort of sifting through both of our pails of stuff and seeing how we have some common denominators and common bonds and making that work. But sometimes there aren't enough commonalities, and that's where we can get into a little bit of trouble. And it doesn't mean the relationship isn't great or can't be great. You just need some help connecting the dots a little bit, right? So that you feel connected to your person. I guess a great example is, and I just started working with someone who is explaining this, which is he gets so down because he doesn't get the accolades and the physical and verbal affection from his partner. And of course, the partner doesn't think anything of it. Of course, I tell him all the time, yeah, everyone's, I love him, but it's not enough. It's not what the male partner, right, grew up with. So to him, he feels unloved or not cherished enough. And again, it's not about right or wrong, good or bad. This is the perfect example for that. It doesn't have to be a problem, like you said, in your relationship, right? It can just be a miscommunication or a void, or our definitions are different. Our definition of what, a loving relationship looks like. For my client, it was more mushy gushy, as we say. For the partner, it was just, no, everything's good. We don't fight. We love each other. Very different though, right?
Yep.
Meaning very, very different.
Yeah. I think this reminds me of a book I read. I think it's called The 5 Love Languages. Yeah. Where that helped me a lot, just understand how people relate in terms of like what their needs are and what kind of, I forget what the term was, but essentially like
the way you like to be loved.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Like, are you someone who needs a lot of, affection and whatnot? Or maybe you might be someone who feels loved when you have things done for you, like your partner cooks for you or cleans the house or something like that. That's when you feel loved. Or some people like gifts, like displays of affection is more about like bringing flowers, or not necessarily always extravagant stuff, but just like a little something. It was really fascinating. And I kind of like, when after I read that book, I started thinking about my friends, or like friends that I have that are in relationship, and you could totally see, like you could pick out immediately, oh, that person is the one that wants the gifts. That person's the one that has to be told they're gorgeous all the time. That one's the one who like wants the house cleaned. It was fascinating.
It really is.
Yep.
You're right. It really, really is. And we're all so different. And our needs are different. So again, that goes to the fact that we're flying blind. We don't know what our partner needs fully, because at the beginning, everything is so, sexy and romantic and hot and lovely. And, everyone's getting along and everything is so exciting. And then, real life happens when you get into the committed relationship, marriage or no marriage. But when it gets to be a certain amount of time elapses, then real life, as I say, it's paying the mortgage time. So it's the real life stuff happens, right? Paying the mortgage, paying the bills. That's when are there some, holes here in the relationship? Is there some support that we should maybe get that could help us avoid some pitfalls? And yeah, there's always pitfalls in the best relationships, right? They just sort of know how to fill in those gaps a little bit better than someone else. So I guess I'm a gap filler. I help people fill that in, and to fill them in, you need to know where they are, right? Sometimes those holes are not detectable, or not understandable. So that's why we sort of go on a journey together to figure out core issue. What are the issues? Which is another way to describe holes in the relationship, voids, and how to fill them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely, what I've gotten from you in just the few short times that we've talked is that you're the person for someone who wants to take action, like doesn't want to just sit around and chit chat and rehash stuff and, talk while the therapist listens. You're the partner that is going to help me or whoever move forward and take action. So if you're a very action oriented person, like you're coming into therapy or coaching with the mindset that like, I want to change this. I want to do something. Not everybody does. Some people come like, oh, I just want to talk about it. Yeah. It's like weight loss to me, I've worked in that industry for forever. It's just like, okay, there's a million people that have a gym membership and they're never going to go, but they can say they have a gym membership. It's kind of like the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Right. For the people who are ready to take action and want to be pushed and want to solve it, like actually want to, make this better, you're the therapist coach for them.
Yeah, I think so. And I don't want to mislead anybody. Yes, I'm energized and I'm all in, but there's still tenderness and a warmth, right, that comes through. So we don't want to mislead people that extroverted therapists or active therapists, if you will, are just going in for the kill and ready to help you. And there's not that tenderness and love and understanding and caring. There's that too, right?
Right.
So
That was a given. To me, that's a given if you're, if you're good. So I think so, but I think what I'm trying to do is just set you apart from other people. So, who's the ideal client? Like who's going to be attracted to you in terms of working with you? So I feel like it's, people who want to take action with also, someone who is caring and thoughtful and all of that.
For sure, because I grew up in a mushy gushy, so I tend towards mushy gushy,
right?
And that comes out because our style is our style, our personality is our personality, good, bad, or otherwise, right? I mean, that's who we are. So we bring that to all of our work, whether you're a fireman or a psychotherapist or a relationship specialist, right? We can't help that, and that's a good thing. It's unique in who we are. But yeah, it's important really that couples find someone that they gel with, right? And I've had very good, outcomes and experience with people enjoying their work with me, and more than enjoying it, very good outcomes. And it's sort of proof in the pudding a little bit, and that makes me feel really good. It really does, knowing that I'm sending couples on their way, that some actually have divorce papers, and literally at the end of the session,
that's awesome.
Nothing better than that, right?
That's
best gift they could have given me, and just it's wonderful. I'm very passionate about what I do, obviously, so I know you couldn't tell.
Yeah. Not at all.
Yeah, I know.
So we've been focusing this mostly on relationships, but I know you do business coaching too. So I want to make sure we just talk a little bit about that as well. So people who are listening to this who, aren't necessarily looking for relationship coaching, but maybe business coaching or personal development coaching. So just tell us a little bit about the kinds of things, the kind of work that you do with people on that side.
Sure. So it actually is relationship coaching. It's business relationship coaching, right? And while we tackle all aspects of the business, and as a former business owner and designer and all the different hats I've worn, I'm able to do that, which is wonderful. I can sort of understand the global picture that they set up for me. But at the end of the day, just like in marriage, your business is only as strong as your partnership, right? And so literally there are parallels in marriage to a business. In fact, most business partnerships spend more time together than they do with their actual, married partner or committed romantic relationship. That's the truth, right? How many hours do you spend at work doing things? So you have to know how to communicate with each other. There has to be the respect. There has to be learning each other's love language minus the love part, the like language, right? And how people take in information. And again, they come from different families, different backgrounds, maybe different cultures. So we're asking them to, go be in business together. You like each other. You should be great. That is,
another recipe for disaster, potentially.
It sounds really great. We're friends. We're going to do great in business together because we're friends. Really? Okay, I hope so. But it takes more than just being friends. And a lot of times you're friends because you're not business partners. Once you're thrown together as business partners, again, remember I said, talking about the mortgage, everything changes, right? When the sexy part sort of falls away and the mortgage time. So friends, partners, it's gonna get real for them. And then it's not about friendship at all. It's about, we want to make our mark. And we have an idea that we want to bring to life. And so I love working with startups and founders, just bright-eyed and passionate. So that's probably where there's a like-mindedness, that the passion is really there for them, and they want to make whatever they're creating fabulous and successful. And part of it's a money piece, financial success, but success is way more than just financial, the satisfaction of doing something, of working hard, of creating something special. And so, yeah, so that other sort of facet of my work is really under the same umbrella. I'm a relationship specialist. And so it's just a business relationship instead of the romantic relationship. But quite honestly, in some ways, 6 1/2 dozen of the other.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to look at it for sure. Like, I can't say I actually thought of that, but yeah, absolutely. I mean, you go into business with someone and that could change everything because you could have different work ethics. I mean, you have different strengths, and that's the reason why you're, I would imagine, going into a partnership together. But sometimes you just work differently. And again, if the communication is not there, that can cause all kinds of problems.
You just described a marriage, by the way, or a committed relationship.
True. Right.
You're talking about the business relationship, but you just described a committed relationship. So it's really the same thing. I mean, many times people don't think about it. We are together with somebody who's from a different culture. Right away, right out of the box, there are things that are just that create difference. And we need to just understand what that is. It doesn't mean it's a problem. I mean, not at all. I think that's what makes relationships unique and interesting in our lives as individuals, when we partner with someone who's different than ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. And I think it makes us better, more evolved, more sophisticated, because we're learning about someone else who comes from a different place than us. However, it does sort of create more challenges because of cultural differences. So there's a lot that goes into it. And again, coming back to communication, where we started a little bit, we're not given those tools. So committed relationships, marriage, it's a lot more difficult than I think people think, right? Because, you have to get a driver's license. You have to go to driving school, right? You have to do on-roads. I remember with the kids, you have to do on-roads. So you have to do all this work just to drive a car. But yeah, go get married and make a bunch of babies.
Exactly. You don't have to do any work to do that.
You don't need any work for that, because we're going to come by that, through osmosis. We're going to just figure it out, which of course is the height of ridiculousness. It's just, no one can do that. Not the smartest person on the planet, can do that. So we're sort of set up for a fall. That's why I love talking about this. And I'm so glad you invited me on, because the more people that know that relationship help is out there, right? I mean, let's start working on it. Find somebody, start working on your relationship. So many unhappy people, so many unhappy relationships. And I think it's just because they're stuck and they don't, how do you get help?
Yeah.
You have to be brave and think outside your box. And many people don't grow up with therapy being a thing. I didn't grow up with therapy being a thing. I come from a family of doctors, so they were very surgical and that's fluffy. It's sort of like, if there's a problem, you cut it out with a scalpel. But the whole, mind-body connection and therapeutic aspect, they're coming around. It's taken them some time. But
right. Well, I just think it was also the time. I mean, I didn't come from a family of doctors, but nobody was doing therapy in my family either. So it was just not something that people did. There was like this big taboo around it, which is crazy, because it's like, to me, the way that you think, the way your brain works is pretty much, I think the reason behind what you do in your life, whether you're successful, whether you're not, how healthy you are, what kinds of relationships you have, all of that. And we do all this other kind of we do physical therapy, we do nutrition therapy, we do all kinds of other stuff therapy wise, and we don't ever do therapy for our mindset or our brain or the way that we think. It's like, it doesn't make any sense when you really think about it like that.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And some people don't even do that sort of therapy. They're, more, I can handle, we don't talk about issues outside our family, right? We just, I don't need any help. I don't need any help. And of course, that's so saddening, because they're not living their best life, as cliche as that has now become. Live your best life. But it's true. Don't we want to live our best life? We get one shot at it. So it's great that when couples do come in, and especially one partner that has not had any experience with therapy, and they leave feeling like they've been to Disneyland, literally, that I think they thought maybe I would hook them up to electrodes. They really didn't know what therapy was all about.
What is going to happen?
What's going to happen to me? So I think when they realize, wow, this is just like about me, or it's just like about us. How great is that to have someone that just cares about you and your relationship and your life for an hour, 90 minutes, whatever it is, just about making your world a better place to live in.
Yeah.
Great, right? Pretty great.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, this has been fascinating. Like we said, we could talk about this stuff for hours for sure. So we're definitely going to have to do more of these. But I want to make sure that people know how they can reach out to you, any contact information you want to give our listeners so they can get in touch with you.
Yeah, sure. Diane, I would like to add one more thing because I'd be remiss if I didn't, which is I offer couples intensives. And what that is, if you think of couples retreats, days in a row, 1 day, 2 day, 3 days, minus like the nature walks. When I think of retreat, I don't know, I think of like horseback riding or nature's walk. So I do couples retreat. It's called couples intensive minus all the nature stuff. It's just, we jump into the therapy. It can be 1, 2, 3 days, depending on the needs of each individual couple. And it's incredibly impactful. We can unpack enough stuff in 1 day that would equal 3, 4, 6 months of weekly or bi-weekly couples counseling. And it's for couples looking for fast track couples counseling. They really want to get a jump start on it, or it's been really unraveling. And they don't want to waste any more time. So I really had to mention that because couples who are sort of in that predicament, I want them to feel like they can reach out and get more information about this, because it's incredible. The response has been incredible and it's so helpful.
Yeah, I'm really glad you said that. And I just want to add my perspective to that. So many times when I've been working with a therapist or a coach, the hour is up and I feel like we just got started. Like I didn't even get anywhere near what breakthrough or whatever that I needed to get to. And then you come back next week, or sometimes it might even be 2 weeks. And granted, I do understand that sometimes you do need time to process, the client needs time to process things. And sometimes you do want that amount of time between sessions if they're doing work on their own or whatever, that kind of thing. But I have to say, like, that to me is really attractive, because I feel like, wow, you can really make some breakthroughs. And I think where I'm coming from, why I think that's so impactful is I went through a coaching certification myself, and we did, it was a 1.5 years long, but there were 3 or 4 weekends where we actually had to be all together as, peer coaches in a room for 72 hours. And we worked straight like 8 hours a day. And I'm telling you, that is where I got the most personal development, growth, and impact and everything, is doing, being in that intensive environment for, X number of hours a day, when you really can just keep going and it's almost like peeling back an onion sometimes, to have to get deeper and deeper and deeper into like what is causing this, communication breakdown, or this mindset this person has, or this block. Like you can't do it in an hour sometimes.
No, you make a really, really good point, which is why I offer the intensives. Sometimes you make a tiny bit of progress and then the session's over, you go into your daily lives, everyone gets busy, no one's really attending to what they learned, and we come back again. Okay, we're sort of in the same spot, right?
Right. And you kind of have to not start completely over, but
right,
you got to get into that groove of it, I guess.
Yeah, it's really difficult. There's a big scope of things that we need to talk about, and the fact that we're together for a day, right? No one's going anywhere. And that's a good thing. We get to touch on childhood work. We get to talk about what was your parents' relationship like, and we're able to sort of spell it out and have visualizations that partners can sort of hear, sometimes for the first time. Oh my God, I didn't realize that, your parents fought all the time like that. Or you never told me that, your parents never talked to each other. That was just quiet. It was a quiet household. They learn things about each other. And it's really an epiphany some of the time. So meaningful, so impactful. And I'll tell you, the outcomes, as I said, just people are really responding to it, and it's saving a lot of relationships. The only, not negative, but I'm a very transparent person, so I want to put out there, obviously insurance does not pay for this sort of a thing. It's an investment in your relationship, and you have to be willing to say, okay, maybe we won't go out for dinner a lot in the fall, or maybe we're not going to go to Florida, but we want to invest in our relationship. It's most important.
Well, don't get me started on that, because I'm a huge, like proponent of take responsibility and stop waiting for the insurance company to pay for everything for you. I mean, that's the whole purpose of our magazine. Actually, most of the practitioners are all cash based. So, that's kind of preaching to the choir to the listeners who are, who are, or readers who read our magazine. They expect that when they contact a practitioner, 90% of the time it's going to be cash based. But
very smart readers and very smart listeners.
We need to break the mentality, though, of the general public that you don't pay for something out of pocket if insurance doesn't pay for it. If it's related to your mental health, your physical health, relationships, even your business. Like, maybe that's my next mission. Like, it drives me crazy, because it's like, what you're passing up just because why are you giving this insurance company all this power to decide what kind of healthcare you're going to get, or what kind of mental health care you're going to get? Or seriously, like, you're not important enough.
If you had cancer, wouldn't you go to the best oncologist you could find?
Mm-hmm.
You would. I mean, if you had diabetes, even, you'd go find a specialist, you'd take care of it. But somehow with, emotional health, mental health, relationships, which falls under that umbrella, obviously, right?
Right.
And it's just not the same commitment. And it's sad, because all that other stuff means nothing really if you don't have that support and love of your partner. That's up here. That's holy grail, right? You have a good relationship, you can weather every storm. And believe me, we all know this, right? The storms are coming. We can't avoid that. Not being negative. That's what life is. That's the challenge of life, right? There's always debris in our path that we sort of have to figure out how to clear. And if your relationship is solid, right, you feel like you can conquer anything. And I can't think of a better feeling than that, right? Knowing you can weather the storm because you've got somebody who has your back, and you have their back. And it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we're still waiting. I know you I'm so glad that you brought that up about the intensives, because I think that was really important to let people know that you do offer that, and it's a huge opportunity that I think, anyone who's considering this should take advantage of. But how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I practice with the West Hartford Holistic Counseling Center, amazing practice. They can reach us and call West Hartford Holistic. They can go on the website. The number is 860-258-4171. And if they call that main number, they can ask for whomever they'd like, or whatever they're looking for. They can certainly ask for me, and I will connect with them, call them back. I text with my clients. I make it very easy for us to connect with each other and get the ball rolling quickly. I'm results oriented, and usually when people are reaching out for relationship help, it's because they're at the end of the rope, they're desperate. So I know what that feels like. So I try to have that turnover be quick and say, all right, let's get going, guys. We can do it.
Awesome. And also, people can catch you on NBC 30. How often and when are you on the show?
Yeah, sure. So actually one just aired today on kids going back to school and the anxiety that creates. I'm a monthly recurring guest on their show, so they can Google me and then pop in CT Live. And I spoke last month. It was June is Men's Health Month. So I spoke about men's health and the importance there, and how much we love our guys and we got to take care of them and help them. So yeah, they can go online, and I've other articles that I've written, but I really like the article that you published that I wrote on trust. And I think a lot of couples should get a hold of the Natural Nutmeg magazine or find that online, because I think it would be really super helpful to them. Yeah,
your article is in our July issue right now on naturalnutmeg.com. You can find that there and pick it up. It's out being distributed right now too as well. So thank you so much, Deborah. I appreciate your time today. This is awesome information and lots of fun. And I hope people will reach out to you.
Thank you so much, Diane. I had a blast.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks everybody for listening. This podcast lives on naturalnutmeg.com. You can download it there, and we also will be emailing it out to our readership as well. So thanks everybody, and hope you all have a great day.